Hello friends, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're journeying back in time to uncover the story of a true hidden figure of science, a story of breathtaking genius, devastating injustice, and a legacy that was almost lost to the history books forever. We're talking about Alice Augusta Ball, a brilliant young African-American chemist who, at just 23 years old, achieved what the medical world had failed to do for centuries. She developed the first truly effective treatment for one of humanity's most feared diseases, leprosy. But her triumph was cut short by a tragic death, and her discovery was stolen by a man who took all the credit. This is the incredible, infuriating, and ultimately inspiring story of how Alice Ball changed the world, and how the world is finally starting to remember her name. To truly understand the magnitude of Alice Ball's achievement, we first need to understand the terror of leprosy in the early 20th century. Known today as Hansen's disease, it was a diagnosis that amounted to a life sentence. It was a deeply misunderstood bacterial infection that caused horrific skin sores, nerve damage, and progressive disfigurement. But the physical suffering was often eclipsed by the social death it caused. Feared as highly contagious and cursed, those afflicted were torn from their families, their homes, and their lives. They became outcasts, forced into isolation in leper colonies around the world. One of the most famous of these was Kalaupapa on the Hawaiian island of Molokai, a beautiful, rugged peninsula that served as a natural prison. To be sent to Kalaupapa was a one-way ticket. You were not expected to ever leave. This was the desperate reality for thousands, a world without hope, waiting for a miracle. Into this world of despair steps Alice Ball. Born in Seattle, Washington in 1892, brilliance was in her blood. Her family was a remarkable one for the era. Her father was a newspaper editor and lawyer, and her grandfather, James P. Ball Sr., was a renowned photographer, one of the first African Americans in the United States to learn the daguerreotype process. From a young age, Alice was surrounded by intellect, ambition, and a drive to break barriers. After her family briefly moved to Honolulu for her grandfather's health, they returned to Seattle, where Alice excelled in her studies. She attended the University of Washington and was nothing short of a prodigy. In 1914, she graduated not with one, but with two bachelor's degrees, one in pharmaceutical chemistry and another in pharmacy. Her talent was undeniable, and she even co-authored a paper in the prestigious Journal of the American Chemical Society as an undergraduate, an almost unheard-of accomplishment. With these remarkable credentials, Alice received scholarship offers from top institutions, including the University of California, Berkeley, but she chose to return to the islands that had captivated her as a child. In 1915, breaking barriers at every turn, Alice made a pivotal move to the territory of Hawaii, enrolling in a master's program at the College of Hawaii, which would later become the University of Hawaii. In doing so, she became not only the first woman, but also the first African American to earn a master's degree in chemistry from that institution. Her master's thesis focused on the chemical properties of the kava plant, a project that showcased her exceptional skill in isolating and understanding active organic compounds. It was this work that caught the eye of Dr. Harry T. Hallman, a physician at Kalihi Hospital in Honolulu who was desperately searching for a better treatment for his leprosy patients. He saw Alice's talent and approached her with a formidable challenge, a problem that had stumped scientists for generations: chow mugra oil. For centuries, chow mugra oil, derived from the seeds of a tree native to Southeast Asia, was the only known substance that had any effect on leprosy, but it was a cruel and ineffective remedy. The oil was incredibly thick and bitter. When taken orally, it was so nauseating that patients would violently vomit, making consistent treatment impossible. The alternative was to inject it directly, but this was even worse. Because oil and water don't mix, the thick, sticky oil couldn't be absorbed by the body. It would form painful, hard abscesses under the skin, which were often as disfiguring as the disease itself. The treatment was so agonizing that many patients refused it, preferring the disease to the cure. Dr. Hallman needed someone to make the unworkable workable. He needed a chemist who could tame Chalmugra oil to isolate its healing compounds and make them injectable. He needed Alice Ball. At just 23 years old, working in a small university laboratory, Alice Ball took on the challenge. She understood the core problem. The active ingredients in the oil, two fatty acids called chalmugric acid and hydrocarbic acid, needed to be made water-soluble. This was the chemical holy grail. With incredible precision and insight, she devised a groundbreaking process. She figured out how to isolate these fatty acids from the oil. Then, through a process of chemical modification, she converted them into their ethyl esters. This was the stroke of genius. These ethyl esters were not only just as therapeutically active as the original oil, but they were also low enough in viscosity and, crucially, water-soluble. The result was a clear, thin liquid that could be easily and painlessly injected, allowing the medicine to be absorbed directly into the bloodstream to fight the bacteria. She had done it. She had created the world's first effective injectable treatment for leprosy. It became known, at least for a short time, as the Ball method. The results were nothing short of miraculous. For the first time, patients at Kalihi Hospital and the Kalopapa settlement could be consistently and effectively treated. The painful abscesses were gone, the nausea was gone. In their place was hope. Over the next several years, hundreds of patients saw their symptoms reverse. So many were healed that in 1918, health officials began discharging them from isolation, allowing them to return to their families and reclaim their lives. The Ball method was a global sensation, and it remained the single best treatment for leprosy for nearly 30 decades, until the development of sulfone drugs in the 1940s. Alice Ball had given life and freedom back to countless thousands around the world. But in a cruel twist of fate, Alice would never see the full impact of her world-changing discovery. In late 1916, while still working on her research, she fell ill. The exact cause remains a mystery. Some reports suggest she may have inhaled chlorine gas in a lab accident, while others point to a rapid case of tuberculosis. On December 31, 1916, Alice Augusta Ball died. She was only 24 years old. Her brilliant career was over before it had truly begun.
And in the vacuum left by her death, an act of scientific theft would erase her from history for nearly a century. The man who stole her legacy was Dr. Arthur Dean, a chemist who had become the president of the College of Hawaii. After Alice's death, Dean continued her work, mass-produced the injectable solution, and in 1918 published the findings. But in his papers, he never once mentioned Alice Ball's name. He never credited her foundational, pioneering work in developing the entire process. Instead, he claimed the discovery entirely for himself, brazenly calling it the Dean method. The scientific community, unaware of the young woman who had done the real work, showered him with praise. For decades, Arthur Dean was celebrated as the man who cured leprosy. Alice Ball, the true innovator, was completely forgotten. Her name vanished from the records, a ghost in the annals of science. For over 70 years, the injustice stood. But truth has a way of rising to the surface. The first person to fight for her legacy was Dr. Hallman, the very doctor who had first hired her. In a 1922 medical journal, he published a paper pointedly giving full credit to the late chemist, calling the treatment the Ball method, and stating, after a great deal of experimental work, Miss Ball solved the problem. But his voice was a whisper against the roar of Dean's undeserved fame. It wasn't until the 1970s that a new generation of historians and researchers at the University of Hawaii, including Catherine Takara and Stanley Ollie, began to painstakingly piece together the truth from archives and forgotten notes. They resurrected her story, exposing the injustice and demanding recognition. Finally, in the year 2000, the University of Hawaii made an official move to right this historic wrong. They placed a bronze plaque in her honor on the campus's lone Chomugra tree, finally telling the world that it was her genius that unlocked its secrets. In 2007, the university posthumously awarded her the Regent's Medal of Distinction, its highest honor. And the state of Hawaii declared February 29th Alice Ball Day, an enduring celebration of a forgotten hero. Alice Ball's story is a powerful reminder of the brilliance that can be found in the most unexpected places, and the systemic injustices that have often tried to bury it. She was a woman, she was African American, and in the early 20th century, the system was built to overlook her. But her genius was so profound, it simply could not be contained. She brought hope to the hopeless and offered a cure where there was only despair. Her legacy is not just in the ethyl esters of chomugra oil. It's in every life she saved and in the ongoing fight to ensure that no scientist is ever erased from the story of their own discovery again. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey today. If you found Alice's story as powerful as we did, please hit that like button and share this video to help us spread her legacy even further. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the forgotten corners of history. Who are some other unsung heroes of science you think we should cover? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.